Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jimmy, and today we have another selection of stories. Let's get started. Story 1 from user Hey Fiddle Fiddle. So with a performance review cycle 1 year, my manager at the time opened with, "Just so everyone is aware before I start performance reviews," our third line manager, and want me to put needs improvement for at least one field for everyone. I don't personally agree with that, so don't take it personally. This was in a private department Slack channel so that all my co-workers could see, but our uplines aren't in the channel. When he actually got around to the individual performance reviews and got to me, he started with, "Firstly, I've been advised to retract my statement about the mandatory needs improvement before going into the review." I figured someone ratted him out. I'm really wondering who the rat was. Personally, I'd rather honesty about things like that, but I can see why HR and upline managers wouldn't. Edit. RIP my inbox. To address some common comments. Yes, I'm aware there's value to such a system, and that everyone has an area they can improve. I never said otherwise. I mentioned this as an example to OP's story about management getting in trouble for being honest. The part I do disagree with is that the upline managers want this to be some big secret. Just tell people that everyone has improvement areas, and assessments will reflect that. Yes, my manager at the time is a dope for putting that in writing. He wasn't always the most tactful, I'll say that much. No argument here from those of you saying he was dumb for doing that. To those asking what these reviews are used for, they're used for bonus calculations, promotion decisions, and deciding layoffs. At least part of the reason they insist on one improvement area is so they can cut someone of their choosing for performance reasons if layoffs hit our area. I imagine they also use it in cases where someone is an HR issue and they need an excuse to can them. I'm aware that that's just standard corporate politics, nothing new. Bonuses and promotions aren't too affected in practice unless you have multiple needs improvement areas, or your improvement area is something critical to your job, because everyone has at least one. It becomes more a question of your ratings in areas critical to your job. To people asking what my needs improvement was, every year it's always been on one of the factors that's not particularly relevant to my job. I've always gotten meets and exceeds on the factors that actually matter for my day-to-day job. Story 2 from user Siphonth-Enigma. Coworker accidentally backed his company truck into my personal car while it was parked. He alerted me and our local manager immediately. We took photos, filled out the incident report, yada yada yada. Everyone in our office was in agreement about what happened, that it was an honest accident and the company's insurance should cover the cost of fixing my car. Then the HR director got involved. First, he tried to get me to assume liability since it was my personal vehicle that caused the accident. My car was parked in the parking lot, and I was inside at my desk when it happened. When I pointed this out, he backed down and said he would file the claim. Next, I got a call from a hostile insurance adjuster from my company's insurance, demanding that I provide my insurance information, or they would be pursuing legal action. It turns out the HR director had filed the claim, saying that I had run into the parked work truck with my car and tried to flee the scene, but was witnessed by a coworker who reported me. I informed the adjuster what had actually happened and emailed her the photos and signed incident reports and witness statements that we had filled out, and she changed her tune pretty quickly and said she would get back to me. The next day, I get a settlement agreement from HR asking me to accept $1,100 for repairs and to sign a form releasing the company from any further responsibility. I had only just dropped my car off at the body shop and hadn't even gotten the estimate back yet. I declined and was told that I either had to accept their offer or be out of luck. At this point, I reached out to my own insurance and told them what had happened. As I went through the sequence of events, I could hear my agent getting almost giddy about all the blatantly illegal tactics HR had tried on me. In the end, they processed my claim and pursued my own company's insurance through subrogation. He also mentioned that they would probably be seeking additional damages due to falsification of statements in the initial claim. Don't with USAA. In the end, the damage ended up costing over $4,000 to fix, but I didn't have to pay a cent, not even my deductible. I don't know if the HR director experienced any consequences, but there was a comment in our finance VP's year-end report about needing to reduce extraneous costs due to reporting delays and inaccuracies in liability claims. Story 3 from user QRTPNS32. I worked in the bakery at a Fred Meyer's for about 6 months when I was freshly 19. There was this 45-year-old guy in meat seafood who was super creepy, and all of the women in my department, and even one woman who was previously in my department but was moved to another to get away from him, warned me about this man from day one. Somehow, anytime I was on my break, he would be on his break too, and he'd follow me into the break room and try to flirt with me the entire time. Not only did he follow me on my breaks and lunches, but if I had to walk to another part of the store to get anything, he would run to catch up to me and walk with me. He followed me to my car a few times after I got off shift, and the scariest time was when I was closing by myself, and he came into the back of the bakery and kept following me around the long table, trying to grab me while telling me how much he liked me and how badly he wanted to be with me. I told him no and to leave me alone constantly, while managers just shrugged and said, "That's just how he is." My boyfriend threatened him when he got off work one time. Hell, even my father came in and threatened him because no one was doing anything. The final straw for me was one night when I was closing alone again. He came into the back area and followed me into the freezer and tried to kiss me, and he grabbed my back. I pushed him and ran to the closing manager, who also functioned as HR. He said he'd watch the store footage and talk to me the next day. Next day comes, and he pulls me into his office and says that he saw the video and saw this man stalking me inside and outside of work, and that he talked to him about his behavior, to which the man responded that it was just a misunderstanding. I replied that this had been going on for months, and I wasn't going to take it anymore, and he had the nerve to tell me that he just does this to all the new girls. As soon as another girl gets hired, he'll leave me alone. I told him he was a bastard and quit on the spot. Turns out the creep was the brother of the store's owner, who had been to jail in the past for bad assault and rape, but was now cleaning his life up. TLDR, 45-year-old man stalked 19-year-old me for 6 months, trying to be with me. Told managers on many occasions, they didn't listen. Guy finally assaults me. Managers talk with him. He says it's a misunderstanding. Manager says he just does this to all the new girls, and when a new girl gets hired, he'll chase her and not me. Turns out Guy is a registered sleep offender for vulgar assault and rape, but he's the little brother of the store's owner, so he gets a pass. Story 4 from user Andrenochrome. One coworker is known to be a general up. She would generally hide it by being nice and on every social commit. And she recently changed departments for a promotion. Her manager would cover up her bad work because of fear of during someone on the same committee as he and legal. Or dump it back to us. When the manager tried to transfer her back, the head of her previous department works for legal and spoke glowing of her and wouldn't take her back. So her manager quit for another job. Well, the new manager was also promoted from another department. Got it apparently by saving the company a lot of money cutting useless crap in his department, and is all about process that leads to results. He doesn't give a crap about typical work hours. You can set your own schedule just as long as things work, and if it doesn't work, he needs an explanation of why it doesn't, so he can help fix it. There is a rumor that he is autistic or something, because he's really unflappable and believes people when they tell him about things. To a fault. She just wasn't doing any work, and the work was terrible and full of errors. So he asked her what was going on. She said she didn't have time in her day to do the work as there was too much, and she never has any training. So he had her pulled from 3 social committees, hired a temp for 4 weeks, and got them both training, and took the training too. But Upwoman complained to HR about him to HR. So HR went to write him up for a poisoned work environment EMT. He showed them the email where she was basically working on social committed for 5 hours a week, and she was behind in her work. So he hired a temp, got everyone trained, and the temp, who had less education than him and Up Lady, was doing better than his staff. and asked for his budget to be increased so he could have a part-time worker if she was truly needed. So now HR is ducking her calls. They don't want to tell her she's a up because they like her. But this weird dude is doing weird paperwork that's really well documented, that she can't do her job, and someone worth less experience is doing better than her. They just want out of it. But Up Woman is not having any of that. She starts hanging out on coffee breaks with the HR VP and her previous department head about how she is a nervous reek, how she hasn't had any training and more. And both these management types know that she has had training and are getting really sick of her complaining all the time. And that's when HR flipped out. They got her pamphlets on the benefits package outlining the help and psychiatric line and stopped hanging out with her. She tried applying for a job in her old department, but they didn't want her. She was telling everyone her situation and how unfair it was. Then Up Woman really up. There was an anonymous employee survey. Everyone in her department stated they were pretty happy, except her. She thought it would be clever to say that the management team in her department were racist to mess her boss's reputation. But he's multiracial, and the two other managers on her team are all POC. But her VP is whiter than bread, and she took the racist accustion to think it was referring to her. And everyone in the department knew who was miserable because Up Woman told everyone. Plus, HR and the VP's bonus is tied to employee scores, so she just them out of their bonus. Things got ugly after that. She got escorted out of the building. All this because she didn't want to do her work, thought HR was her friend, and when they weren't, doubled down claiming she was experiencing racism. It was bonkers. Story 5 from user Conman Connors. I was promoted from employee to manager. A month later, one of my colleagues decided to hit on me. I'm male, she's female, and a few years younger than me. Despite now being her boss, she decides she won't accept no for an answer. At first, she maintains I'm clearly interested in her and just being difficult because of the work setting, ignoring that I had a girlfriend at the time as well. Then her performance review comes around and she does pretty well, but a couple areas need improvement compared to the rest of the team. I'm happy to help her on that, so she can be a top performer by year's end. She lost. Her trash. The story changes. She decides that I'm punishing her because I can't be with her. She starts to refuse any coaching or constructive criticism, bad-mouths me to colleagues and clients, insists I should just get over myself and date her like we both want. I continue to reject her advances. HR gets involved, and despite everything being documented and numerous people supporting me, they put me on notice to play nice with her. She is a spoilt rich kid with an insurance lawyer father. So HR makes the decision that the company can't waste the time or money in legal troubles she would create if she was fired. Even with 90% certainty, anything she dumped on us would be dismissed in the end. Eventually, she decides she doesn't want to be with me anymore, and I'm just a terrible boss who hates her because she won't date me. Again, I've been rejecting her for months at this point. Her behavior gets worse, and I have another manager assigned to literally relay instructions to her. She will flip her shit at anything I say. Tells HR I'm not emotional enough when I communicate, or too emotional, or not clear, or too clear, and it feels harsh. Whatever. If someone else gives her my advice, verbatim repeat of what I said, then she has no objections. A year and a half later, I get promoted again. Spoilers, I was not a terrible manager after all, and thankfully moved to a new team. I have a lot of bitterness towards HR types for making me endure that brat for so long. I had an 18-month vulgar harassment and insubordination headache, all because she might have moved that harassment to the company if we formally disciplined her, let alone fired her. HR will always put the company over you. Thanks for watching to the end. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.